Um, it's better than the first one. So I saw Five Nights at Freddy's 2 probably about 6 days ago, but I didn't have a chance to make this video. But better late than never. And that goes for like all my other reviews. I also saw The Running Man, Now You See Me 3, Wicked 2, and Zootopia, and the JJK movie. But I wrote the reviews for all of them, but I just don't have enough time to record and edit them. I kind of just got lazy, and then I got a bunch of schoolwork piled up. And then I had like D&D stuff. So I will be making those videos sometime in the later future when I have a bunch of free time. But now I just really want to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's 2 because I don't know, it's kind of goofy, so I'm just gonna have more fun talking about it. So I'm gonna have fun making this than the other ones, so I just want to make this one first. See, I didn't really enjoy the first Five Nights at Freddy's that much because it was kind of terrible. I felt the movie lacked a sense of direction and it was trying to be more horror adjacent. And what I mean by that is the movie tries so hard to be a good introduction to horror to please a wider audience. So it kind of felt like it was trying to be scary, but not to the point where it would turn off audiences from watching it. Like, I commend its effort to make horror more mainstream and more digestible to a broader audience, but consequently, that also makes the movie kind of wonky. I just realized that I'm just kind of reviewing Five Nights at Freddy's right now. But Five Nights at Freddy's 1, it was just bad. It was just bad filmmaking. I'm just gonna sum it up to it didn't know what it wanted to be, and that led to clashing tones, and by the end, you just get a really bad product. However, I think the second movie found its footing a little bit more. It's not trying to cater to a bigger audience this time around. There's still plenty of problems I have to talk about, but I'm just gonna start with the good stuff. Like, this movie definitely leans more towards horror. The tone of this movie stays pretty consistent and it's a much darker movie than the last one. I also think it sets up the tone really well, especially right off the bat. The opening scene was kind of good. It was so good that it tricked me into thinking the rest of the movie was going to be like it. The jump scares are plentiful, but I also think they're kind of weak. They're not really set up very well and I found them pretty easy to predict. The movie's pretty gruesome too, even though it's like for a PG-13 movie. I wish it was rated R. But I think the kills are done pretty well. It's pretty gory, even though you don't get to see most of it. The writing is also a little bit better, especially when it comes to the conflicts of the story. I think the relationships of Mike, Abby, and Vanessa have a little bit more depth to them this time around. Each character in this movie has some internal conflict, and the movie juggles that decently, I guess. I'm being really nice right now, but I don't think the movie does a great job at juggling these conflicts because some characters are definitely lacking when it comes to depth. Oh, and another thing I really like about this franchise is the fact that they use practical effects. The animatronics are all practical. They're all built by, I think, like the Muppets team or something. And I think it's so cool that they don't use CGI, and I really appreciate it because it pays off. The final product just looks so much better than any form of CGI, and I commend them for that. And that's pretty much all the good stuff. Or, I guess, the decent stuff. Now for the bad stuff. There's a lot of it. So, I think the acting in this movie is absolutely horrid. Every performance in this movie lacks so much charisma. Anytime anybody says a line, I don't believe what they're saying. And then also because of that, I'm just bored out of my mind. Although I do think it's also in part of the script, which I also think is terrible. The characters in this movie just do not do it for me. They don't have arcs. They don't change. Like, their relationships do, but them as characters, they don't learn anything. And the writing outside of the main cast is even worse because the characters, aside from Mike, Vanessa, and Abby, are introduced either to get killed or to be used as a plot device. There's a literal character that's only introduced to give Mike a Chekhov's gun so that he can use it later, and then he just doesn't show up ever again. And then there's a group of characters who only show up to die, and they're the only kills in the movie. The antagonist is also just straight up goofy, and the lack of tension just makes them even goofier. Then the movie just falls apart even more at the end when they introduce another antagonist just to set up the sequel. This antagonist had no build up. He just pops out at the end just to set up the sequel. And I'm not gonna spoil who it is, but it was just so random. And I also find it funny the most prominent animatronic that has a voice acting role is Chica, which is voiced by Megan Fox. And if you don't know, Megan Fox is a terrible actress and an even worse voice actress. Because if you played Mortal Kombat 1, you'll know how bad her voice acting is.
That blade's enchanted.
Serena's right. Because of Quan Chi's magic, my realm's people are no longer poisoned by sunlight. We've finally escaped the shadows.
And in this movie, she has the most speaking lines of any animatronic, and I find it funny because they gave her a role of a robot, but like she already sounds robotic when she's just doing her normal voice acting. So I think that was just good casting, and I just kind of find it funny. Overall, I think it's still a below average horror movie. There's a lot more bad than good, so I can't really consider the movie that much better than the first, but I'll say it again, it's definitely better than the first. It's not particularly fun to watch either because of how bland the characters are. Like, unless you're making fun of the movie, I would say it's a fun time with friends. So I'm just gonna give Five Nights at Freddy's 2 a 4.5 out of 10.